another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. We are here between that no man's land, actually one of my favorite times of the year, after Christmas, before New Year's. Oddly enough, New Year's is one of my favorite times, but we are here bringing you another episode during the holidays to talk about all this. JD, David are with us. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Ready for this episode.
Doing great.
Well, first, before we get into the episode, I got to know, how was your holidays? How was your Christmas time?
It was great. It was actually my birthday on the 28th, so
no!
Celebrating like crazy.
You're a Christmas birthday.
That's right.
So let me ask you. This is the big controversy. Like, do you get skimped? Do you fall? Do you think you get cheated a little on the presents through your entire life? Do you feel like you've always kind of missed out a little bit because it's so close to Christmas?
Yes. So here's the hot take about December birthdays, and you'll hear a lot of things because you'll have a December 1st baby who thinks it's the same as the December 28th birthday, such as myself. It's not the same. There's many great positives. I get to see my family. I don't have to go to school. But I mean, ever since I can remember getting presents, it's always, oh, this was a nice big gift, so it's gonna count as your birthday and your Christmas, and that's been my life. That has been my life. My parents, it's not my parents. My parents are great. It's more extended and family and, friends like that. Parents, great. My parents always bless me. No problem there. But
you're not complaining. I'm not complaining.
I'm ultra blessed, super happy. But it is the story of that. It's a factor. Yes.
That's hilarious.
I'm a December birthday as well. His mom's a December birthday. I'm 9 days before Christmas. She's 4 days before Christmas. So even if you have a great birthday, it's just so close to Christmas. It's a part of Christmas because everybody's got Christmas decorations, Christmas music. It's hard to feel like it's your special time because it's a bigger thing is going on than just your birthday.
Yeah,
I got it.
I party hard for 1 week out of the year, and I celebrate hard, and then it's got to last me 365 more days. So that's how we roll here.
I got you. Actually, Soren, who was on the last podcast, his birthday is the 28th also. Y'all share a birthday.
No way.
Yeah, he turned 10. He's 10 years old.
That's
and
crazy.
And little Disney, I'm going to ask you guys this in a second too, but little Disney move in that is that he is, because of the Mighty Ducks series, he has become obsessed with hockey. And, of course, we live in a place where there's not a lot of ice and a lot of opportunities to do that. So for his birthday, he wanted hockey jerseys, and Garb's his favorite team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. As I grew up in Tampa, probably that influence. But we took him ice skating on his birthday, and he absolutely loved it. So there's some Disney influence, Mighty Ducks and Emilio Estevez. Oh, and for Christmas, he got a Gordon Bombay Funko bobblehead for his room, and that was one of his favorite gifts. Like, he has it up there. It's pretty cool. So that brings me to my next question. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave. John David.
You guys might be the biggest Mighty Ducks fans I've ever heard of. That's awesome.
They love it. They absolutely. I love it too. It was just kind of a part of my childhood. That came out in the early '90s, I think, maybe even late '80s. I can't remember.
Oh, wow.
But question. So, Christmas gifts. Did you guys get anything or give anything Disney related?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. Yes. Me and my wife, we've been going to the parks as much as possible. We got my sister. She actually collects the Starbucks mugs, and at the Starbucks, the Magic Kingdom on Main Street, they had collectible 50th anniversary Magic Kingdom Starbucks mugs. So I got my sister that. I got Dad some. He's going to be repping his new Disney World tees. He's repping it right now.
He gave me this.
Hey, all right, there we go. And if you're just listening, you can go on YouTube and see this. You can see the new T-shirt.
Yes, our Christmas is full of Disney for sure.
My wife this year decided to get everybody a Disney game, so we got Disney Family Feud. Disney, one called Geek Out, Disney.
Pictopia or something like that.
Pictopia. It's a lot of Disney games.
Headbands, Disney headbands.
So yeah, she went on a Disney game sale hunt, and everybody got some Disney game that we all played. We played all the games yesterday.
Yeah.
That's super cool. What's the one where the code is it Code Name or Code? Y'all seen that one?
That's really good.
That is actually probably our family's favorite game, and it's Codenames is just a regular game that anybody can play. It's not a Disney version, but we own the Disney version, and it's a perfect family game because what it is you got a bunch of cards laid out with Disney characters, Disney places like that, and you get two teams, and you can give your team one word, and they've got to guess what cards you have through that. So it's kind of like a guessing clue fun game where you're trying to read your team's mind, and it's really fun.
But we played another game. One of the new ones we got was called Geek Out, Disney version. Mm-hmm. And so when we first looked at the cards, it looked kind of basic. I mean, if you're a Disney fan, you probably would know most of these, but it may say something like the question might say name a song from Moana. Okay, but then the part of the game is you bid and you go. So it's kind of like every person might be like, well, I can name a song from Moana, and the next person might go, I can name 4 songs from Moana, and then the next person might say, I can name 7 songs from Moana. And
gotcha.
So everybody drops out, and then the person who bids the highest has to follow through and get everything right. Or it may be like simpler. It might not be songs. It may be other things like that.
One of the biggest ones we had, and I'm patting myself on the back here, was can you name one friend of a princess? So then the bidding goes around. You start with 1. We went all the way up to 31.
We bid up to 31.
It was me who got the 31, and it was tougher than you think. We were. The interesting thing about this game too is there's no actual answers on the card, so you kind of have to plead your case if your answer is correct.
Yeah, in fact,
so people could be like, "Nah, yeah, I got you."
Like we had to debate. Like somebody had thrown out some Greatest Showman, and we were like, "Is Greatest Showman Disney?" So we're going back through to Google to see if things are.
It's like, oh, Disney bought it, or Disney owns it now, or Disney, produced it and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. Yesterday was really fun.
Awesome. So if anybody was wondering, it is now verified the fandom of these guys, of all of us. When you can name 31 princesses' friends, that's insane. That's insane. That's really impressive. We got the Codename game too, the Disney version and the Harry Potter version. So maybe a great episode would be we open that up and we have it. We play on air for a podcast. Maybe that could be something we do.
Yeah,
I've wanted the Harry Potter version. That's I thought that would be a great one to play.
That sounds
as well.
fun. Yeah,
I haven't played it yet. It's still in the box. You know how there's so much stuff going on. But man, our kids have had a blast. I'm sure there are plenty of Disney gifts involved. Lots to do with Marvel. Actually, my youngest wanted Shang-Chi rings, right? And the weird here's a little complaint I have. So they do make this. There's the toy, the Shang-Chi rings. It shoots out little discs, kind of deal. But if you buy one, it only comes with 1 arm, which is 5 rings. So to get the full, you got to buy 2 of them. Now this dad, who is a fan and knows better, got 2, so he had the 10 rings instead of the 5. But whoever makes that, you need to, some grandma went out to get their grandkid, the rings, and some kids are running around with 5 rings. That ain't how it works. It's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. Get this together. You're messing things. I know that's a little ploy to make more money. Whoever Hasbro, whoever licenses this stuff out to make these things, but you need to have 10 rings. 10 rings. And for anybody listening, if you only bought your kid 5 rings for Christmas, you need to go out and buy another 5 rings so they have the complete setup.
That's right.
Hey, another member of our family got have you heard of The Villainous games?
I've heard of them. Yes.
So there was the new one. There was the original game, and then they've done several supplements to add more villains. Then they did the Marvel version. So then this year, the Marvel supplement came out where you could get Loki. And so one of ours wanted the Loki game, so we had to eventually get it from England because it had sold out here in the States. So we had to get a relative in England to get it to us.
That's pretty cool. And I think too, why we loved it. We've never even mentioned the world of board games and all of this stuff. Like there's so many we could think. I could think through the years of just having different Disney board games and different things that never even occurred to me that it was just part of life. And just going with that, I love this conversation. Maybe we could do a podcast on that too, and it'd be something to talk more about.
Well, and there are a lot of games like my wife was asking the other day. She goes, "Hey, do we want the Disney version of this?" And it's not. There's really nothing different about the game. It's the same game. It's just like Monopoly. It just looks like Disney. Maybe I don't even know if that one exists, but there's some of the games that are classic games where they put Disney characters in. But then things like there are some that are just completely originals, like
But Disney. I mean, when you create a Disney version, I mean, I think about Codenames. We probably would have never played Codenames if they didn't make a Disney version. Yeah. So it's a fun way that it gets everybody in the family that they can relate to the game, and it makes us want to play it, and it brings us together. So it's kind of a fun way that, Disney can come into the house in a different, form or fashion. And it's really fun,
Totally. And speaking of Disney coming into our houses, we are at the end of the year, and we thought our listeners would love to hear our takes on some of the best of Disney, the things that came into our houses and the things we went and saw at the theater, the best Disney movies and best Disney TV shows that were released in 2021. And to be perfectly honest, we were talking about this just before we hit record. We had to go Google. It's been a long year. Like, it's crazy to think about how some of these things came out in 2021. It seems like it was 3 years ago. So we had to cheat a little bit and not just doing this off the top of our heads. We had to go get a list and see, oh my gosh, this was this year. But I'm excited about this because it seems like we were partly pandemic still, but things were still opening back up. We got out to life was a little more normal. So maybe I didn't consume quite as much as I did in 2020, but there's still a lot. So, JD, why don't you kind of take over here? I know you've been thinking about different categories we could talk about. What were some of your favorites, or what do you think? Maybe you could throw out some things for us, and David and I, we could kind of shoot some of these things out and tell us what some of our favorite categories were for this.
Yes, I've got so many favorites, so many fun things. And just because we had this little wow moment before the show of like, oh my gosh, how much has come out? Dad's got a list here of all the movies and all the shows and some of the biggest things and some of the dates. So I think we should just list a couple of them or all of them just so our listeners kind of get that aha moment like we did of, oh my gosh, this came out this year. So, Dad, will you list some of those things off real quick?
And some of these things were meant to be theatrical releases, but I don't know that everything made it to theatrical because of the pandemic. And then some, I saw on Disney Plus because we didn't want to go to the theater yet. Yeah. So, here were the major movies. Releases were Raya and the Last Dragon on March 5th, Cruella on May 28th, Luca on June 18th, a Pixar animated movie, Black Widow on July 9th, Jungle Cruise on July 30th, Shang-Chi on September 3rd, an animated movie that's not considered a Disney release, but it's Disney owned, called Ron's Gone Wrong. Came out in October of 2021. The Eternals, November 5th. Encanto, November 24th. And although it's technically a Sony release, it's the Marvel Universe and overlaps. The Spiderman No Way Home came out in December. But here's a list of shows and movies that hit Disney Plus this year. This isn't everything, but these are some of the biggest ones. Wanda Vision, January of 21. A movie called Flora and Ulysses, which was based on a really popular children's book, came out in February 21. Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiered in March of 2021. Mighty Ducks, March of 2021. Star Wars: The Bad Batch animated series came out in May. Loki, June 9th. Another series called The Mysterious Benedict Society, based on a really, really popular children's book, came out in June of 2021. A new Pixar series called Monsters at Work, based on the Monsters franchise, came out in July. Another series I haven't seen yet, Turner and Hooch, came out in July. Oh. Mm-hmm. The Marvel series called What If started in August. Wow. Another Star Wars series, anime type show called Visions, came out in September. This one, I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but Muppets Haunted Mansion came out in October.
Seen it?
There was a ton of merch for that. I was blown away by how much Muppets Haunted Mansion stuff came out. It sold out like immediately. In November, gearing up for Christmas, a new Home Alone movie called Home Sweet Home Alone came out in November. A docu-series, a Disney docu-series called Adventures Through the Walt Disney Archives came out in November. And then, of course, the Hawkeye series started in November as well. And then yesterday, the Book of Boba Fett premiered on December 29th. So that's a look back at some of the things that came out this year.
Well, and there you go, everybody. That was everything that came out in 2021.
Not everything, but a lot.
A lot of things that came out in 2021. So hopefully you heard your favorite from the year. Just to kind of kick off of wrapping this year up, I've got a couple of questions here. We're going to kind of shoot and fire, and I'm interested to see what you guys' favorite movies and shows. So the first question, little rapid round, is we're going to do what was your favorite? Okay, so for this, actually, I'm going to say your top two favorite. Well, because I think I might know what both of your top number one is. So I'm going to say your top two favorite Marvel movie from this year. Top two.
All right, so that's counting.
And we're going to count Sony.
Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, and Spiderman No Way Home.
So out of 4.
Yeah.
Only movies. There's no series in this at the moment.
Yeah, just movies.
All right. Well, the obvious one, my favorite, and I know David's going to say the same thing, is Spider-Man. No Way Home is probably the best. Number one. It's just kind of epic, and the scale of that was, we talked about that a whole lot. Would you agree with that, Dave? I don't want to steal your thunder, but
definitely the best. The most enjoyable, the most fan enjoyable. I mean, just a really good movie, epic in its feel, but not heavy, like epic. I mean, it's just across the board had everything.
Yes. So nobody's suspenseful about this, JD. You're going to say the same thing, right? That's your top Marvel movie.
Yes, it's up there
by a mile.
Marvel, yes, it's up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be in my. I think my all-time Marvel.
Yeah.
I've heard that's made a lot of people's list.
Let me hear the number twos then.
All right, David, you go first. Number 2.
Well, I can just tell you the one that I enjoyed the most of Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals. The one I enjoyed the most was Shang-Chi. I just thought it was really fun. I thought it was well done. It probably was the one I had going in had the least expectation of what it was going to be and how good it was going to be. And I really enjoyed it. It's the one that I want to see again the most.
Awesome. I totally get the Shang-Chi pick. I do. And I really liked it. And there's a part of me that wants to say that's my second as well. But I'm going the Eternals. And that's saying I loved Black Widow too. I thought Black Widow is super underrated, but I think the Eternals is new, it's different, and it's very un-Marvel, which is one of the reasons I like it so much.
Wow.
But of those 4, it was so different and so captivating and so interesting to me, and I was getting to know new characters. I'm going to say the Eternals is number 2.
Wow. So just to review, so you're saying if we were all together right now, we had Disney Plus on, but the only 3 things we could watch were Black Widow, Eternals, and Shang-Chi, and you're clicking Eternals.
Yeah, I'm clicking Eternals.
Wow.
That's the thing. One of the reasons is I kind of know the Black Widow story. It was good. It was entertaining, but there's nothing in that movie I feel like I need to go back and get again. Yeah. Shang-Chi there is. I think Shang-Chi has a lot of rewatchability. Matter of fact, I have seen that several times. My kids watch that a lot. And it's really good and creative and it's different. But man, the Eternals is just I think going to be key to the future of the MCU and I love and appreciate it's outlier. It's being different. It's an outlier. It's got a different tone. It's very un-Marvel, like I said, and I think that's fun. That's different and interesting to me. And I think there's a lot there. There's a lot of layers to peel back on it.
I think we're going to be getting a lot of flashbacks. I think I would agree that there's a lot in Eternals that we understood, but there's going to be a lot more that we're probably going to be in future movies. We're going to be like, okay, that makes more sense now, or this is from that. I think that there's going to be a lot of fun there.
But sure. I was detecting in your feedback on that question that you probably are not, y'all would not be like, no, Eternals is definitely not top two.
Well, the thing about Eternals for me, we've talked about it for a little bit. I liked Eternals. Again, like if you put Eternals next to any movie that's not Marvel, I'm probably still going to pick Eternals just because I'm a Marvel fan. And I still think it's great quality. The problem again that I just have with Eternals, and it's just because I didn't feel emotionally attached. I didn't really care about the characters like I do with literally every other Marvel movie. Which again, still a great movie, and it was such a hard project because you're introducing so many characters with only so much time. But that's why for me, it wouldn't be the top of my list. For sure.
All right, so what's number two? Shang-Chi for David. Me, the Eternals. JD, what's your number two?
This is so fun because I'm going to say Black Widow. So we're getting a little bit all around. And honestly, if you would have asked me right when they all came out, I probably would have said Shang-Chi as my second one under Spider-Man. But the more I think about it and the more I kind of like watch bits and pieces, again, we all have kind of different things that we love about movies and why we would rewatch a movie. And I think really for me, it really is nostalgic and just having that feeling of like recognizing a character and really like rooting for that character. And I think that's why Captain America is my favorite Marvel kind of franchise character. And that was because he was the first Marvel movie. The first Avenger was the first one I really got into and started to watch. So when his movies came around and when his scenes were on in the big movies, I got really excited. So I think that is why now I would say Black Widow. And if I was watching Disney Plus and had to watch a movie, I would say Black Widow. Merely because I love this character and I really got to see her story and I really got to see and I love Florence Pugh. I thought she did a great job. I thought it was hilarious. There's a lot of moments that I laughed. And it was great. But again, Shang-Chi, I loved Awkwafina. I thought she was great. And Eternals definitely had its thing. All are pretty good movies, but I think Black Widow, I would say, is my favorite. If I had to watch one, is what I would watch.
So we got all three different ones there. And again, like, I mean, this is the thing about this podcast. We're not ripping things to shreds typically. It's all like what we like the most, not really what we don't like. And yeah, I think that's awesome. That's a good question and very interesting takes from you guys.
Yes. So to follow that up, the next question is we're going to talk about your favorite Marvel TV series, so show. So you've got Loki. I mean, we've had, probably the best year of Marvel shows ever because you've got Loki, you have Wanda Vision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If, and Hawkeye, right? Did I get them all? Mm-hmm. So that was all of them. So I want to hear both of your number ones, and I'm really interested to hear this because this is something we've talked about a lot, but we've never said our favorite. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say.
All right, go ahead, David.
I know you go first.
I went first last time.
You go first this time.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Hold up. Okay, so
I know mine. If you want me to, I know. Like,
let me think a little bit, and you go ahead.
Okay, for me, WandaVision. WandaVision to me was kind of TV. Not step aside that it touches in all those eras of television and was very hit the nostalgic buttons for a lot of different reasons. I love one of my all-time favorite shows is Lost, and I love the mystery. I love not knowing what's going on and having it unveiled in a creative way. And WandaVision kind of hit those buttons. It was like, what is happening and why is this happening? And even at the end, there's so much potential for where this could go and what this could do. And even getting to know the Scarlet Witch character and what her powers are and why she's important and how she fit into the last part and how she's going to fit into the next part. There's so much there. The cast is fantastic. Paul Bettany is, I think, one of the greatest actors in the world who does a great job with Vision. And is an intricate part of that. Now we see with the new Spider-Man, how with the new Doctor Strange, how she's going to be involved in this multiverse stuff, and I'm really excited. So yeah, I think far and away, I would say far and away, I loved all of them, but I think if I were rewatching something tonight, WandaVision would be first.
Yeah, that's good. Are you ready? I can go. I think my favorite, and it kind of goes off exactly what you're saying, but kind of a different perspective. Is I would say my favorite was Loki, and that would be because number one, it just felt like the highest quality to me. Like it feels like I was almost watching a Marvel movie every week when watching it. It also felt the most impactful on the Marvel universe, especially that last episode when you start looking at like this King the Conqueror character and what's going to happen. And I think it's going to pair really well with the multiverse. And I'm still wondering what the next scene is after that final episode is going to look like. But again, I love Tom Hiddleston. I love Owen Wilson. They were a fun duo. I thought they were very creative in getting Owen Wilson to be on the show because that's not a pair that I would think about at first, but it worked really well. And I really liked, again, when you talk about nostalgia, I keep talking about nostalgia. That first episode was so fun to kind of get a glimpse at that first Avengers movie. Was really cool. So that's why Loki would be my number one.
Okay. Man, this is really tough. I'm really enjoying Hawkeye. I haven't finished Hawkeye. I've got another episode left, but I've enjoyed that. I think my number one, I have to agree with Dustin. I think I would go with WandaVision. One, it just every episode felt fresh, and there was never I wish that. I remember enjoying every bit of it and not looking like I wish they had done this or that. And I could. Not that I have a ton of that in these other shows, but maybe there might be one or two times I wanted something else to happen. So for that sake, I think I would go with WandaVision as the one I enjoyed the most overall.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think all these shows were just so great. I mean,
oh yeah,
I could talk about Hawkeye.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's been such a good show, and it fires me up because nobody was talking about it. Again, there were so many people who didn't even know it was going to come out this year or it was going to be a show, and it's right up there. I mean, It's been so good. I've enjoyed watching it every week so much.
Yeah, Loki and Hawkeye, I've really enjoyed them as well. And I mean, WandaVision, the crazy part is I really can't believe it's been almost a year. I haven't rewatched it because there's been so much else to watch that I haven't had time to go back. But I really want to go back and see it again. I love the way they worked in the TV shows. I love the mystery. I love the final, the plot twist of what was going on, and a lot of fun there. So yeah, all good.
Yeah. All right. So for this next question, we get two more questions. This next, we're going to kind of move away from Marvel, and we're just going to say, I'm going to ask you guys, what is your favorite content this year that is purely Disney? It's not a partnership with anybody else. Animation or live action, you've got Cruella. Read that list off real quick.
Well, that's a little bit tougher. Maybe we ought to split it into animation and live action.
Well, how many live actions do we have besides Cruella?
Cruella and Jungle Cruise.
Okay, so that's what I think we might. So, what would be the whole list with Cruella, Jungle Cruise, and the animation?
The Raya and the Last Dragon, Luca, the Pixar film, and Encanto.
Okay.
I need my kids because the only thing I've seen on any of that list is the Jungle Cruise, which I liked.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's just
the Jungle Cruise.
Let's just talk about Jungle Cruise for a little bit, and then me and Dad we can talk about.
Well, I'm just gonna say my top is Jungle Cruise by default, but I loved it. It was great. I'd probably pick it first anyway. I haven't seen Luca yet. I really want to see. I want to see all the Luca. I want to see Luca so bad. And Raya and the Last Dragon. My kids have seen all these. I should ask them. But Jungle Cruise, I thought was awesome. How they, I love The Rock. I thought it was very, nostalgic. It kind of pulled on those old Goonies, caper kind of things, and it pushed all those buttons in all the right ways. And I thought it was great, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. What would you think, Brian?
I think of the two live action, Jungle Cruise was my favorite over Cruella. To me, they're kind of different. Now, I did think that I thought Emma Stone and Emma Thompson in Cruella were amazing.
Yeah.
I expected Emma Stone to be great as Cruella, but Emma Thompson as her character, was pretty amazing. And that story, that even that version has a lot of plot unexpected things. I think that for me, the Cruella is just it's just completely a new movie. It's called Cruella, but it has very little to do with.
Yeah.
It has really nothing to do with the character we've all known. So it's not even a reworking. It's just a new character with the same name to me. And so Jungle Cruise, I think for that reason, has a lot more nostalgia, has a lot more, just I connected with it a little bit more. The ride, I'm excited that they created a movie that can be a franchise. They could do part 2. Of course, I think Cruella 2 is coming also, but I think that the Jungle Cruise could be a really fun franchise. It's epic without having to be like Pirates, which was just, it had to get, it was like everybody wanted to get bigger and bigger. This is kind of a different thing because it's just a less, the scale is manageable to repeat.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting move by Disney because for years, Disney and Disney World and all the parks, they've got this interesting kind of rap on them because they've got so many rides that aren't IP based. I mean, you've got like Thunder Mountain, you've got Jungle Cruise, Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, Tower of Terror. These huge, well-known rides, but there's no movie behind it. So people have always been like, are they going to change it? Are they going to retheme it? And Disney was like, I guess Disney's just said, instead of retheming the rides, we're just going to create movies about the rides, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I would definitely prefer that over them changing these, awesome rides. I mean,
well, they've got to do it well too, because they did the Tomorrowland thing, and
and there was a Haunted Mansion movie, and there was a Tower of Terror movie that was like a 20 years ago low budget film of the.
I don't remember the Tower of Terror movie, but
yes,
I definitely remember the Tomorrowland thing, and I don't think that was a huge smash or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I've seen with this, I've been watching some of the casting and some of the casting predictions. I've seen, of course, there's a lot of news with the Tower of Terror movie is going to be Scarlett Johansson, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and I mean, so it's encouraging to hear some of these big names thrown around with these, movies because it's hopeful that they're going to be good quality. So
Black Widow is going to be in another Disney movie. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So they must have got over their little spat there.
Well, I think that's
pay the woman.
It seems like they're on good terms. Everything I've read, I mean, she got a lot of the money that she wanted. And
it's all business, right?
Yeah.
It's all business. Nothing personal. Just give me my money is what she's saying. I'm Black Widow. Just don't exist without me.
Yeah.
She's worth it. They need to pay her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Cruella. It was great. It was another kind of interesting take, kind of like Maleficent, if you guys have seen that.
Is that your top one, JD?
I would say Jungle Cruise. I mean, again.
Jungle Cruise. So we're all in agreement. Jungle Cruise is the best Disney product out. See, even though I haven't seen the others, you guys are in agreement with me. Yeah, I saw the right one.
One thing that's interesting on both of these two is I saw them both on Disney Plus. We did not see these two in the theaters yet. So Eternals was the first thing I saw in the theater, and that was in November of this
Us
year.
too. So I
saw all of them, but I wonder, in the theater, if the experience would have been, if Jungle Cruise with a crowd of people would have been even better, like for me, Spiderman was, because I enjoyed the crowd. But I thought they were both good, and I'm looking forward to the part 2s and seeing some more from that. So then the others this year, the animated movies, Disney had Raya and the Last Dragon and Encanto, and Pixar had Luca. So we had 3 animated. So you've not seen any 3 of those yet, Justin?
No, I'm embarrassed to say.
No, it's all right. No, they've all come out really recently. I only watched Encanto, I think 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
But just to follow that up, I would actually say Encanto is my favorite from that list, which is surprising to me because from the preview, I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't really pumped up to see it. I wasn't, going to want to watch it the first couple nights I was in the theater, but watched it a couple nights ago, and it really surprised me. The plot was really intriguing. The soundtrack, which is what really drew me in. It's Lin-Manuel. A really fun watch. Raya and the Last Dragon was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And all the other animations were pretty good. But Encanto just felt such like a high quality, like you expect from a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. These three movies were very different, and I think it's really interesting that you haven't seen them because you've got four boys.
They've seen them.
They've seen all three.
No, they haven't seen Encanto. So we've got a family night coming. They've seen the other two without. See, that's what happens. If they see it without me, then I never really get a chance to catch up.
Well, I'll tell you what. On Encanto, which I think is my favorite of the three, and this was a hard year. Again, they were all spread out so far. I liked them all fine when I saw them. None felt like, oh, this was the greatest that I've ever seen. But I liked them all a lot. But when I went back and we watched as a family, we watched Encanto, and it was the second time I had seen it. I appreciated it. It went up a level. One, if you watch it and you don't speak Spanish, you should put the subtitles on because there's a lot of music in Spanish that pertains to the story, and I missed it. Like I didn't know what the lyrics were when that went behind the scenes, and so there were things like that and that Lin-Manuel Miranda's lyrics are so good that they go by so fast that you sometimes miss the content because there's so much. One thing about it that one of my daughters said was she referred to it as an ensemble piece, and it feels very Broadway for that. Like I think every character has a song at some point. Everybody sings, and it's like the music really never stops, which is very different. So if that's not your thing, you might not like this movie. And I've seen some people score on other websites score the movies this year, and Encanto might have been a lot lower. I think it's because they're just not fans of musicals. This was a very different thing that I thought that I would like, but I really did like it. I think next on my list would be Raya. I went back after Encanto and even watched Raya again. I skipped through a little bit, but I had to go back and remember, some things about. I mean, the action in Raya is pretty amazing, and the artistry in both of these. If as a dad of college students, I mean, I've grown up with Disney from the very beginning, the oldest Disney things, and there's beautiful art back then. But what they're able to do now. Just with computer animation, the backgrounds, the water. I mean, the fact that they can have an ensemble cast of 15 characters that all sing is pretty amazing. You couldn't really do that 50 years ago. That's why, I mean, if you go back and look at the cast size of a movie 50 years ago, there may be 5 to 10 characters. And now we have these huge crowd scenes and, the whole town. In Encanto, the whole town is a part of the movie. And so you've just got hundreds of characters in this movie, which, that's pretty epic to see. As far as Luca, I went back and refreshed that one as well. It's good. I think it's a fun movie. There's a lot of things that I really like about it. But of the three, there were a few times that I was like, it just wasn't as creative to me. But I still liked it. It did not feel as epic as the other two.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Dustin, you hit it on the head earlier when you said we're not bashing anything. We're just basically saying which we liked more of all the good shows and movies. So everything's been great.
I think we'd be honest. If we hated something, we'd tell you, but we didn't hate anything. There's nothing to hate. It's all been pretty good.
I would say the closest thing to hating, at least I've had. I mean, of course, wouldn't say I hated it. Was probably the new Home Alone movie.
Okay.
It was. I would probably say some of the OG 1 and 2 Home Alones might honestly be my favorite Christmas movie. So if you're gonna put Home Alone if you're gonna put that title on something, it's got to be great. And I thought it was kind of cringy, and some of the jokes, I was kind of like, I think they kind of got mixed up with who the target audience is. When you're kind of going on a classic like that, you don't really know who you're speaking to. And I think they kind of got lost in that with some of the humor.
Yeah, my kids saw it. I did not see it. Did you see it, David?
I did. It definitely felt both the Disney Plus movies. I think there were only really 2 originals this year that are movies, not TV series. Was Home Sweet Home Alone, and there was another called Flora and Ulysses, again based on a children's book. I think they were both good. It's that if you don't have kids in that demographic, it's probably not something you're going to watch just by yourself. They feel geared towards. I think this other movie, Ron's Gone Wrong, that Disney owns, that came out. It also felt like if you have kids in elementary to middle school, it's the Disney Channel demographic. Your family's probably going to really enjoy it, and you're going to connect with it because your kids are going to enjoy it. But if you don't have someone in that demographic, it may be a little less than what you're expecting.
If there's any indication,
the humor can be just really elementary. It's
Gotcha.
like the things that happen, the slapstick Home Alone humor can get a little bit old if you don't have kids involved.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, there's been a lot of movies like that have young humor or kid humor, and it's still kind of funny to an older crowd, because it is. I mean, it's still just funny how it's young,
Right.
But I think why I thought it was cringy were there were just a couple of I don't know, it was just a weird chemistry between the actors and actresses, and there were like some pop culture references and some like social media things like that, and it was just like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is just a Home Alone, it's supposed to be just like kind of a classic. And then at the end, I would really encourage you to watch it because I want to hear what you think about the ending. It's just really interesting how it resolves. I mean, of course, it's Home Alone, so there's chaos, and it's like crazy chaos. And then it's like, oh, okay, it's Christmas. Like, we're all good again. And it's like, what just happened? So, anyways, we can talk about it more once more people have probably watched it. I don't want to say any spoilers like that.
Well, this might be a spoiler. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled, you might not want to listen.
No. You can tell me. I'll probably watch it at some point, but not till next Christmas.
If you're listening and you don't want to know what's going to happen, but the premise of this, it was hard for me to grab a hold on because in the original Home Alone, which I don't remember when that movie actually came out, but I was a young adult when Home Alone came out, so I didn't see it at the theaters. I might have been a teenager. I'm not exactly sure. When I as a parent, when we had kids, it was one of those movies that you're really not sure you want your kid to see to a certain point because you don't want them to pick up that behavior. You don't want them to think certain behaviors are okay. When you have kids, you're trying to process like how are they processing this? Home Alone, the originals, the bad guys are very slapstick, and it's very not. They're evil, but they're goofy, but they're obviously villains. I mean, they're trying to steal. They are bad. They are trying to break in this boy's house. In this movie, they're not trying. They actually. I don't want to give it away, but they're convinced that he has taken something of theirs that they're trying to get back. And so
you already lost me, man. Like, I'm out.
Yeah, it's they're desperate, and there's a reason they're desperate, but they're not criminals. Yeah. They're not the two guys. I can't remember the name from
Yeah, but to summarize it, it's basically kind of like usually you would be kind of pulling for the kid. But in this movie, you're not really pulling for the kid because you understand these criminals or whatever, the people trying to get into the house, why they're doing it. You can kind of relate to them to a certain extent. So I think that's where some of the frustration for me was. It's like I don't feel bad for this kid. I don't want him to really succeed as much as the originals do.
And they try to fix it so you understand. It's just a big misunderstanding that he doesn't understand why they're after him. But at the same time, you're going, they just want their property back, and he's like throwing paint cans and he's setting them on fire, and it's like. And it's kind of interesting seeing a female character just get annihilated by a little bit. It's different than seeing two guys that are supposed to be slapstick con men. It's just different. It was like,
well, that
I don't know what I
cast.
thought of it.
The Home Alone was
Here's
such a unique cultural moment. And if it tells you anything, my kids did watch the new Home Alone, and then proceeded to the rest of the Christmas season, watch the original Home Alone over and over and over. So that, if that tells you anything, and I think it does what I'm picking up on. This does a lot of these remakes. Some of these movies, like Home Alone, I'm not sure it could be made again today. Just the cultural climate has changed where no one can be bad. Everybody's got to be a reason. People are like this. We got to explore the social underpinnings of, let's just make a movie, and you're right. It was not, back in I think it was 91 or 92, maybe 90 when that came out, or like earliest 90s. I think I was in middle school. It might've been like 89, somewhere in that era right there. And, there was a dysfunctional family that was wealthy. The premise, they forget their kid on vacation, but the way they set it up is like not totally implausible, right? And then this kid's defending their house and learning lessons along the way, right? And it was just such a masterpiece, and it came out of nowhere too. I remember going to see that movie and thinking I didn't even really want to go see it. My dad was dragging me to it. We're always movie night, Christmas, let's go see a movie, and just leaving like in tears, just laughing. It was incredible. And if you're going to touch on that magic again, I think you better come with guns blazing. Now, like you said, maybe it's just a different demographic. It was straight to Disney Plus. It wasn't a theatrical release, and usually those are a little lower budget and that kind of thing. But I missed it and probably won't unless it's on in the background. Take 2 hours out of my day to check that out.
Alrighty, so just to wrap everything up with that, we've got one more question to kind of wrap up with this year of good cinema, of good shows, of Disney Plus. I can go first on this one because I know it's not something you maybe have thought about. But the question is, what is the most underrated to you Disney content that has been released this year? So I can go first. For me, and I've been looking for any excuse to talk about it because I really do think it's really good content. And it's Star Wars Visions. I've talked about it a little bit. It was released on Disney Plus. And the reason that I'm talking about it and the reason that I kind of like it so much is, I love Star Wars, first of all. I grew up watching Star Wars, and again, it's nostalgic. But the thing that's great about it is there's been a lot of Star Wars shows. They've done a lot of things through the years with animation and stuff like that. But the reason I liked it was because I think they did 9 shows. None of them are parallel. Like, they're not the same characters in every show. But there's so many lightsaber battles in it, and it's such a fun type of animation and storytelling. I would really encourage any Star Wars fan or any, fan of a good show or just wants to try something new to give it a shot, because I almost didn't even watch it, and I really started to enjoy it, and I haven't heard a lot of people talking about it, and that's why I think it's so underrated, is because I watched Disney News and listened to a lot, and no one's really been talking about it, and I really thought it was fun and it was cool to watch, and just so many. It's kind of like What If almost, but Star Wars. But it's not really characters It kind of explores the Sith and Jedi relationship through different kind of centuries and years. So it's super cool to watch that kind of battle go back and forth.
That's a great. I can't wait to watch. I haven't seen it yet, and that description makes me want to check that out ASAP. Yeah. So, that's cool. For sure,
one thing for anybody who's listening, and for you, Dustin, there's a couple episodes that are kind of like, okay, this is weird. I would say there's probably 1 or 2. I think it might be like episode 4. It was one that was kind of like, there's like a band episode where like there's like this Jedi who's like in a band, and it's like, what in the world? So watch the whole season if you can, because they're all just so different, So
yeah. One thing that I'm so glad you've watched that. I really want to go check it out because I've missed that. One other thing that I like the What If series. Haven't finished that yet. I just enjoyed a little bit more Marvel, and I could watch it at home. But I think one of my other favorite things that I haven't heard anybody really talk a lot about, because I like this kind of thing where they did this series called Adventure. They did it was like a show. It was just one show called Adventures Through the Walt Disney Archives, where Don Hahn, who was the one of the men behind Beauty and the Beast and so many of the classics of the 90s, goes to the Disney archives, and they just show all these great things that they have in the Disney archives, from ride vehicles to famous props to Walt's office, which has been fully recreated in their building. You can go and take a tour of Walt Disney's office and see it exactly the way he left it. That was a really fun show. It kind of reminded me of the show, The Imagineering, show that came out with Disney Plus, and I've really wanted more of that. Like every 6 months, I want something that's a little more history based and more deep fan based. That's less about the movies and just more about the history of the parks and the movies and all of that. I want more. And there was another series that was
Beyond the Attraction, Behind the Attraction,
Behind the Attraction. That Dwayne Johnson also was one of the producers of. I think there's going to be a second series of that. I think that came out this year as well. I missed that.
Yeah.
I was making the list.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Both of those. This show is kind of like through the art. They go to Walt's first house that's still standing. That you can see the where he took all these iconic photos. You can see the place where he was standing and how they did it. So it's a lot of fun, and you just don't get to see a lot of that stuff on. You can read about it in books and things, but it was great that they finally did a series where you could see the house, see the office, see all these great props that they pull out that you've never seen before. They show the document where the first thing he signs in 1923 when they officially start the company. So cool. It's a lot of fun. If you love Disney trivia, Disney history, it was a good show.
Actually,
it's only about
really cool.
Long. It's real watchable.
I want to check that out too. That's fantastic.
Hey,
if I were going to
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go first. This is something else. You go first.
Oh, I was going to tell my underrated, and I was going to actually going through my mind while you were talking. I was thinking Behind the Attractions, but since we already touched on that, I'm just going to throw out Hawkeye. I didn't see. It didn't feel like. I mean, everything Marvel does is good. You expected it to be good, but it kind of surpassed expectations, and I still think it's not on everybody's radar. And I also love the integration from both Spider-Man and Hawkeye with Kingpin and Matt Murdock and Daredevil and all of those bad guys kind of entering into the MCU. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to spoil anything. If you haven't seen Hawkeye, because it's underrated, and chances are maybe you have not. But I actually do think, this is all I'm going to say, I do think Kingpin is a big part of what's coming. And if you've read it in any of the comic books, you know that he's an incredibly resilient character. And the way that's all I'm going to say about it. But I really, really think Hawkeye was incredibly underrated. Those characters were fantastic. They paid great homage to, I think, comic book and some of the MCU and prior. The way they kind of the tribute to Black Widow and her sister and how she gets involved, and even that musical, man, was kind of goofy and kind of gives you a glimpse into the world after Avengers Endgame. And kind of what it would be like a memorial to. I mean, even in Spider-Man, you had the Statue of Liberty with a Captain America shield, right? It's pretty remarkable. And if that really took place, of course, that would be what we would do. And I think all that's pretty fascinating. So I'm going to say my underrated media moment of the year is Hawkeye. And maybe that's not the best one, but I'm going to go with it. I'm sticking with that.
I mean, it's a great show, and just. I mean, you talk about Black Widow, and, Black Widow's given so much to the MCU and to get her own movie. I mean, it's the same for Hawkeye. I mean, he's given so much to this Marvel universe. I mean, he deserves his own show. And, I mean, and it was great. I mean, it's been great.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed seeing more of that character and more the shooting, the action that's all focused on him. Because it's just been, he's been more of a supportive player in the movies for me. Yeah. Hey, one thing I wanted to add, and this was just going back to what we were talking about before with the animated movies this year. I just looked it all up on Rotten Tomatoes as of today when we're recording. the audience favorite of those three animated movies, with a score of 93, is Encanto. The critics give a little bit more favoritism to Raya, and then audience and critics put Luca third. So I thought that was kind of what we were talking about a second ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of split on Raya and Encanto, with Luca falling a little bit behind those two. But all three have high scores, whereas Home Alone has a critical score of 16 and an audience rating of 12.
Okay, so we're kind of in lockstep with them.
So yeah, it's not good. And I always feel bad when movies don't score well and there are kids as the lead. I always feel my heart goes out to the guys. Like when we saw Artemis, when we reviewed Artemis Fowl, and the movie just didn't do well, but the kid did a good job.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the rest of the whole didn't live up to the rest of the show. Yeah.
That was awesome, guys. That was a lot of fun. Those are all my questions.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun to hear y'all's insight and perspective.
Well, now we are about to hit into 2022, and there's a lot of new content, a lot of new movies coming out in 2022.
Yeah. We'll have to do an episode on what we're most looking forward to. We got a few things coming at you, but man, thank you guys for sticking with us this year. And I mean, we're a month into season 2, but we're rolling on each week, and we thank you for joining the ride with us. And that's why we love Disney. All kinds of new things to talk about. They're hitting us left and right with incredible content from Marvel to Star Wars, from Pixar to now Fox and other things. There's always something to talk about, and we would love to know what your takes are on these movies. What were your favorite TV shows? What were your favorite movies this year? Let us know. You can contact us at whyilovedisney.com, and through there's an Instagram and there's a Twitter. Find us all. Also, if you would share an episode if you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen on. We appreciate you. We thank you. We value your time and can't wait to be back here again next week. Guys, if I don't see you before then, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Take care.